Hi, this is Jasmine from AO1 Fitness, and we have another video podcast for you. I don't know if you've noticed, but our logo has a very prominent triangle on it. I am not techie enough to actually have the logo and the video going, but just go onto our social media, you'll see it. And the reason we chose a triangle is because, first of all, it kind of reminds us of a mountain, which speaks of adventure and going higher and higher, which is what we really embody in Audience of One Fitness and Mindset Company. It also is like a triangle that's pointing up. And last week we talked about just getting rid of all the clutter and the noise in your life and focusing in on who your one audience is. And then thirdly, a triangle has 3 points, and we really stress that a healthy, balanced life needs to have both health and fitness, your mindset, as well as community. So this week we are focusing in on community. And if you check out the blog, I'll link it below, you'll see what we're talking about this week. And not just having a community for the sake of community, but looking at who is in your community, because who is in there is really going to set you up for success or not. And so we talk about having people looking to those who have gone before you. Where do you want to end up, and following after them? So we call them mentors or pace setters. Looking beside you, who is running this race with you with similar goals, so side by side friends, and then looking behind you, is anyone following you? We believe that all of you have something to deposit as a legacy in your journey in life, not just wait till the end of life, but pour into the next generation right now. And I wanted to interview someone very special. When I was thinking of who to interview, immediately Melissa Gendron came to mind, of someone who embodies a healthy life with all 3 of those community members present. Melissa is full of life and passion and joy. Her middle name is Joy. Is that right? Melissa Joy. And so she was just a natural fit to ask the questions that I want to ask her today. So this is the lovely Melissa Gendron. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jasmine. It's definitely a huge privilege. When I received your message, I was like, oh, wow. I was like, this is so exciting, and it is true. I've been really fortunate to have some amazing mentors, and then in return have felt really encouraged, and just something inside me that really motivated me to do the same for others. And it's been an exciting adventure so far.
Yes. Melissa has, ever since I've known her, which has been many, many years now, she's always had mentors surrounding her, but she also works with a lot of youth and has poured into them, and so she is now in the mentoring role as well. So we'll get into that in more detail. Would you just mind sharing with our audience just quickly a little about yourself? And Melissa is also not just in mentoring, but she is someone who thrives on adventure. She even grabbed this pillow. It was just sitting here, and it says take adventures often. Like, she just did a huge hike yesterday. She's always backpacking. She's always telling me of incredible stories. So I know it's hard to choose something, but would you be able to share a little bit about yourself and maybe an adventure that you really enjoyed?
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to be a BC girl now, but I grew up in Ottawa in Northern Ontario. Grew up in a French-Canadian family. And I hardly use my French now, and I've been learning a little bit about a few different languages, living in a very diverse community in Surrey. That's been very exciting, and working in schools as an outreach worker, and I'd say, like you said, I love adventures. I think life is an adventure. I think I love being outdoors, being active. Equally, I love meeting new people, and I love building relationships, building trust. I'd say, just caring for people, meeting them where they're at, hearing from them, like, where they want to be, and like helping them move towards there. It's just, there's nothing more exciting and more rewarding in life, and just I've been really fortunate to be able to do that for work. And
Awesome. So you have come across many challenges in life, both physical and emotionally. And so I'm just curious if you would be willing to share how do you come across that? Like when you face a physical or emotional challenge, what goes through your process of how do you tackle that? How do you overcome that?
Right. Well, when I first read this question before this interview, I was just like, the first thing I thought of was just recently I experienced burnout, and I was on stress leave from work. I was working for a nonprofit and working with at-risk youth and vulnerable families. And during my stress leave, I was really struggling with my mental health. I obviously felt very overwhelmed, very exhausted. Was dealing with a lot of social anxiety and depression and things like that. And so I, with the help of people in my life, realized that I got there to burnout because lack of knowing how to apply self-care in my life. And like I knew it was important, especially from studying child and youth care counseling, and I just didn't know how to do it. And a huge part of it was really modeled to me, I would say. And so anyway, so right away I knew I needed to put some more structure in my life, because that's not a huge part of who I am. Like you said, I'm all about adventure, spontaneity, right? And quite extroverted, and so always busy. And then I was like, okay, I need to put some self-care. And one of the things was recognizing, okay, I'm not doing well emotionally, mentally. And I had a friend tell me that when she went through stress leave, it was like, she said, you need to treat yourself like you're a young child, right? You need to sleep, you need to eat healthy. And so just creating those healthy habits for myself. So self-care was huge. And that helped me emotionally and mentally, doing things like eating healthy, exercising. And so I started going for walks, and then eventually started to run. And I remember just like the first few runs, and sometimes still, if I'm feeling quite stressed or overwhelmed, I would get emotional. But specifically during my stress leave, I remember these runs where it just hit me. I was like, that physical pain I was going through, or like fighting against this resistance, brought me to like recognize, or created this space for me to recognize the emotional pain that I was going through.
That's
and to process that.
Wow.
And so I think, and how to tackle it, it's important. Always self-care, have routine, and include people in that journey of like learning how to find that healthy balance.
That's really interesting how you connected the physical and the emotional, and how to overcome it through the other.
It almost makes me think of a teeter-totter. I'll say it.
Wow.
But you see, you have the emotional on one side, the physical on one side. If you want to keep that balance, you kind of have to consider both.
That's very
and then
interesting.
even when I'm running, if like I recently did a race for the first time, and like it's physically, when it's like physically challenging, you have to like tell yourself like emotionally, like you have to pay attention to how you're talking to yourself. Like I had this terrible experience where I went kayaking with a friend, and we were like heading towards this bridge, and we were just going so fast, and I was like, something in my gut was like, something's off. But I have no experience kayaking, and didn't really think this through. It was very not smart, but basically, we were going like with the current, and then when we turned around, not good at all. Took us like 3 hours to do what took us 20 minutes.
Wow.
But I remember in that moment right away when my friend was like, we're done. Like there's no way we're like gonna get out of here. And I was like, no, we have to stay positive. Like I knew that the battle would like be first with like my mind than like physically. And there was a train right beside us, and I was like, that was the only way that I could know how far we were getting, is looking at like the different trains, or like I don't know what you call them, but so I'd be like, okay, we're at the blue one, okay, and then I'd see how far, like otherwise we were paddling as hard as we could, and as soon as we stopped, it would kind of so it felt like super discouraging. So I think a lot of times, like if you want that, like make a tackle something that's hard physically, you set a goal, and and then small goals to get to that bigger goal, and then you see yourself kind of
Awesome.
I think that's helped me a lot.
That's so good. So many little things in that whole story right there. So Melissa has had many mentors in her life, for different areas, different parts, like just overall, because I know you've had so many. What would you say is the value just to having an upward mentor in your life?
So many, so many values. I think like someone to help you recognize like where you are now, where you want to go, and how to get there, right? And either like yeah, we all need like to be challenged in certain areas or encouraged, or maybe even like see where the areas we are strong in, the areas we do need to work on and whatnot. And I think yeah, I mean, you look at even like professional athletes, and they'll still have, coaches right there alongside them, even though they have built this strong foundation in their skills. So I think in any and every area of our life, there's always someone who can help us continue to develop the skills that we want to acquire, or like things that we want to learn, or areas in our life that we want to grow in. And then often like there's certain things that we can't see, that are those barriers that keep us from getting to where we want to go. And so having someone to like point those out and be like, be careful, or be mindful of this, or you might want to consider this, or just to ask those right questions, and even to like help you remember the why behind what you're doing, because that's what's gonna like keep you going, right?
Absolutely.
So kind of fill your tank in that way.
I'm gonna throw an extra question at you. I feel a lot of people, when you say the word you need a mentor, they get a little tightened up and nervous and not really sure how to go about doing it, or in their mind they think, oh, I have to basically go see a counselor once a month and like so just could you just share how in your life you've gotten mentors? Like, is it an application process you go through? Is it organic, natural? Like, how do you go about getting a mentor?
Right. Yeah, I was very privileged that my first mentors were at a very young age. And I think it was a community of people that like kind of fosters that, like the encourage mentorship. And so that kind of set the tone for me, and I think helped me understand what that looks like and understand the value of it. But then I like also recognized later on that a mentor is in a sense like building a friendship. And so it kind of requires both ways, and sometimes like right from the beginning. And it's like you, in a sense, like I guess you want this person to show interest in you, but you show interest in them. Like in a sense, you recognize like, I appreciate this about this person, or I'm inspired by this and that about them, or I'd love to learn more about this from them. And so I think it requires us like communicating that in a sense, or not sure exactly how to explain that. Like just like, or if you meet, like if you're go to this social event and you meet a bunch of people, and there's this specific person that like stands out to you as like, oh, I think we could be really good friends, right? It's the same as like, oh, I think I could learn something from this person, or oh, I really admire this about them, right? You get that like little kind of gut check, and then it's like, okay, you can either do something about it or not. And unless you like initiate a conversation to even just get to know them more, or to maybe later on say, hey, like we should grab coffee sometime or go for a walk, or I'd love to hear more about your story and how you overcame this, or I'd love to learn more about how you accomplished this goal, because that's something I would love to do, and I think you could help me get there. And most people, if they hear something like that, they're like, oh, like this is exciting. Like because they most likely had someone also pour into them and like encourage them, or give them, pro tips and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so they've experienced the benefit themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they haven't, it's something that like they've accomplished, or something that you're saying you appreciate about who they are, and that you want to learn from. So yeah.
So it takes that initiative and a bit of vulnerability to put yourself in that position and ask for it.
Yeah, and I think that's just the beginning stage, right? Just like a friendship, like that's how you're like, oh, maybe, I met this friend at a social event who I found out does all this hiking, and it's like, oh, like I'm looking for more hiking friends, and I'm looking to like or even like a runner, or I'm looking to like actually like do like a harder race, right? And it's like, oh, I can maybe learn something from this coworker or whoever, right? And so then you have to kind of like be curious, ask more questions, but then maybe you go for a run with this person, or go for a hike or something, and then if you wanted to build more trust or more of a relationship where you can learn even more, you would in turn yourself would have to like kind of meet them halfway, right? And so it requires you being willing to share about what it is that you want to learn, right? And maybe where you've come from on your journey so far, the challenges you face or that you're facing right now that are keeping you from getting there. So it requires vulnerability. I think the more you want to get out of it, the more you have to put into it. And the more you're willing to be, I know for myself, being like a verbal processor, the more I'm willing to like take risk and be honest about like what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, where I'm at, what I'm struggling with, or what I'm wanting to accomplish, the more I can learn about myself and accomplish goals, and so the more rewarding that mentoring relationship becomes.
Absolutely. That's so good. Being vulnerable, taking initiative, you'll get so much more out of it. Otherwise, what's the point? That's so good. So that's upward mentors, people that have gone before you. What about people who are kind of at the same place as you? So I would call them side-by-side friends. Not all our friends are going to be in the same, sphere that we're in, or make the same goals, but it is important to have a few friends who are like traveling at the same pace as you.
Right.
Do you have an example of perhaps some peers that you've set a goal with, and because you did it together, that created most importantly accountability and encouragement? Right.
Yeah. I can think of a few examples. Most recently, I just like completed a program that helps you look at just different hurts that you've experienced in your life, and so kind of dealing with like more the emotional side of. It's kind of a bit of a counseling group. So we looked at ways you can be in denial in life. We looked at like facing the truth. It kind of goes along with the mentorship stuff, and ways you've hurt people, ways people have hurt you, all these things, right? And we did this in like a larger group and then smaller groups, and we had to do like all this work as well, like homework, and I had the opportunity to like facilitate a group. And I remember at the end of the program, actually just last week, I like told the girls, like it was like so like in me, I was like, I'm so grateful that like you girls were in this group like with me, like, and that you were so like they showed up every week and didn't just like show up, but were like so willing to like do the hard work, right? And be vulnerable about their stories, and that like gave me courage to do the same thing. And I remember like I chose to, initially I was just going to be a participant, but then I chose to be a facilitator because I knew like myself, and I knew that would hold me accountable to like not just do the program, because it's 22-week program is so long, right? Like and so like I needed that endurance, and I knew that I needed people that were going to encourage me, like do it with me, right? And then help me remember why I'm doing it, and like, and when I wasn't really feeling it, like I'd be encouraged by their success in along the journey. And yeah, so they definitely helped me. Even there's some weeks I still didn't do my homework and things like that, but like they definitely helped me try to get the most out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Off camera, Melissa mentioned to me that she seeks doing things that are harder and challenges, and things that require risk is so much more valuable to her. And so I just value so much that you chose that role in that group, because you knew, okay, it's harder for me, it makes me more vulnerable and more accountable. You'll get so much more out of it, and that's like just incredible.
Well, even just the learning, like I didn't feel very confident about leading a group, so even just that learning. I think the more willing you are to dare greatly or step out of your comfort zone, the more you're going to grow. Definitely in balance. Like, you don't want to stretch yourself too much.
Burn out. But absolutely. So I had already written the blog that I will link below about pace setters, and then I asked Melissa if she would be willing to do this, and she mentioned, without even knowing what I wrote, my boyfriend and I did a race, and he's already done it before, so he was my pace setter throughout the race. I was like, that's the analogy that I was using. And if you've never heard of what a pace setter is, I didn't know this either before I started running half marathons. They're called rabbits, and they're people that run in a race, and they're so effective, or maybe efficient is the better word, at running a certain time, that they're hired by the race scouts to run that race at a certain time, or complete at a certain time, and they have like a sign and stuff, and they're called rabbits. And so if your goal is to finish a half marathon in 2 hours, you find the guy who's running with the sign that says 2 hours, and if you keep up with him, you're pretty much guaranteed to reach your time goal. So you had that naturally with your boyfriend, just happened to be doing that with you. How did it feel running a race with a goal, and it's a fairly new experience for you, with him doing it with you?
I had only done the 21K once on my own before, and I really was not prepared for it. And so just having someone that like has done it several times just that in itself was like super helpful. And I know that I tend to just like sprint, so like him pacing.
That's good.
And what was I gonna say? It was helpful because like I knew my end goal in mind was like finish this race. But I knew that it was going to take time, and I had to be patient. And he was just constantly like reminding me, like, okay, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And like just like these little reminders, and like so I had this big goal, but he would like put these little goals in front, kind of like, oh, like, okay, like, see that girl, like, okay, we just need to like maybe pass her, and then we're good, you know, as long as we pass her at the end of the race. And I was like, no, I want to pass her now. And it's just kind of these like little challenges along the way, and I would accomplish these little challenges, and I just felt like, okay, now I have momentum, right? Or like I'm motivated to like I can keep going. And for the most part, I listened to him and like trusted him and like his pace. But I had these moments where I was like, no, I can do better. Like I can go faster. And I go faster, and then he continued to go that pace that he wanted me to go, even though he could run way faster than me. First of all, he's way taller, and he's done marathons, and it's just a half, right? But he continued, and so then he was behind me, and then I was like, okay, no, I need to slow down, because right now, like, do I think that like I know better, or that, you know, like he has the experience, right? And so that encouraged me. But still at this point, 3 kilometers before the end, I got this like massive cramp, and in that moment he stopped, came and helped me breathe through it, and I was able to finish the race. And I think that is like a really great analogy about why mentors are so important, is like to keep that pace. But you'll have moments where you're like, I don't know if I can get to this angle, I don't know if I can get through this pain that I'm feeling right now, or And you'll have all these lies in your head, like, you're not good enough to do this, you can't do this, or you've already failed, or and to have that kind of that voice there, it's like, hey, no, like, you can do this, and the encouragement, and someone to even talk things through. Like, at some points I was just kind of chatting, right, and kind of distracting myself from what and just this like reminder, like, okay, slow and steady when serious, sometimes we need that in life. We think I should be here, or I should have known this, or like, we compare ourselves to other people, we think, right, and to have someone that's like, and that's the biggest thing that I think one of the biggest things that I've been learning about through running is you can't compare yourself to other people, right? Like, and especially during a race, because you don't know their journey and they don't know yours, and we're all on our own journey. And like, if I'm trying to compete with someone else and their speed and whatnot, I need to like listen to myself and what I can do, otherwise I won't finish this race. And I think life is kind of like that in some ways, right? Like, you have to look at where you've come from, where you want to go, acknowledge like the things, even the little things that you've accomplished, and let that continue to move you forward into like bigger goals that you want to accomplish, and surround yourself with people that will notice those things. And so I think that was huge, just having someone the experience and keep me steady.
Clear the clutter and just focus in on your audience of one, and the goal and the destiny for your own life. That's so good. So cool. And so good on Erin. Wow. Something remarkable that I've mentioned about Melissa is that she has just poured into the next generation a lot, and very effectively. Some people try to do it. Melissa has done it very well. So she's mostly poured into youth, and very at-risk youth. So I'm just wondering I'm sure there's so much you could share on this, but just briefly, how has this impacted you? And then maybe you have a story that you could share of how it's impacted those that you have poured into.
Sorry, what is impacted?
So you
got a little emotional there. I was like, how mentoring others has impacted me and impacted them.
You've received mentorship, but now you are the mentor too. So
it's definitely been quite a learning journey and humbling experience. And I think, as we were chatting about earlier, like, you guys don't know this, but I had the privilege of having Jasmine as a mentor when I was like 18, 19. And learned so many great things from her. And I just like, what was I saying earlier about that?
Well, that it was an honor for me to be
I was so grateful, and I would always tell her that, and she would say, oh yeah, I'm also grateful to like be your mentor, and I'm learning from you as well. And I just didn't understand that. I was like, how's that possible? I'm like some like young girl that doesn't know anything, right? And like, she's like so smart and like healthy and all this stuff. And then like, I don't know, through my own opportunities, and like we said earlier, taking initiatives to choosing to like create space and time in my life to mentor others, I've been able to see how they also have such an impact in my life, and teach me so much. And and we're always learning. And so I think that's probably the most encouraging thing about mentoring others and being mentored, is just kind of this ongoing like cycle. If you have both, it almost is like what feeds your soul and like keeps you motivated, and and I think like healthy, and like I don't know, I just think of a plant, like it needs the water to grow, it needs the sun to grow, right? And so we kind of need both those things to continue to grow and even reach our own goals. And
or even, I just thought there's like air we breathe in, but you would suffocate if you kept it in. You have to breathe out.
Right.
And it needs to be that ongoing cycle, in and out, in and out.
Right.
And that's life.
Yeah, or I remember like going to school for quite a few years, and then I wanted to keep learning more because I knew there was so much more I could learn before going into the field of child and youth care counseling. But I was like, I felt like a pot that was like boiling water, and I was like about to like, you gotta take the lid off and you gotta like do something with this water, because I was like, you know, I was about to, like, too much information in. I needed to like share some of my learning, right? And I think the more that we take those opportunities to share what we're learning, the more like we have space to like take in some learning, even from those interactions with the people we're mentoring. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melissa, so much. So
Thank
good.
Thank you.
Well,
literally, like I was just saying, like in this moment, I'm learning from, you know, having the opportunity to answer these questions, and and I feel encouraged that I've had opportunities to have mentors in my life and mentor youth as well.
It's so awesome. And I love that Melissa lives this out. This isn't just theory of a blog post that we wrote, but Melissa she continues to have upward mentors. She has pace setters, she's got friends, and she is continuing to use every opportunity to pour out. And that's what we encourage and hope for each one of you, that you would see yourself as someone who is valuable and has something to offer, that you can leave a legacy right here, tomorrow, today. And don't just wait till the end of your life to do it now. And of course, we always want to remind you that you are more capable than you think, and sometimes you need someone ahead of you to speak that into your life. Like Melissa was saying, people spoke into her life and called out the gifts and things that she just didn't see. Sometimes we don't see it, but we know that you are more capable than that. So lastly, I'm just going to link the blog in the comments below. If you have any questions, we would love for you to also post those below, and we'll get to those. And lastly, our freebie for the week is a 40% off coupon. So you don't want to miss that. We have not launched our program fully yet. It's coming in the fall. So you want to grab that coupon now and save it for when we're going to launch our full program. And the coupon is for you and either a family member, or if you don't live with a family member and you have, Melissa lives with roommates, and a close friend that you're going to do this program in community with, then we want to honor that, and because we value community and family so much, that the second person will get 40% off. As long as you guys do it together, you are guaranteed that price together. So just hop onto the blog, and there's a little form for you to fill out for that. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again to Melissa for sharing.
So, a last note. Thank you. I heard someone speak about mentorship once, and what they said really stuck with me, and so I just want to say that. Is that a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you have to meet with like every week or every month or so many times a year or whatnot, and like you have this like intense coffee meeting or something. It could be just literally you're at some say event or something, and you see someone, or you meet someone that like you see something in them that you like, a skill you want to develop or something you want to learn from them, and you just say, hey, can I learn more about this from you? Yeah.
Natural. Very good. Yes. Awesome. We'll leave it at that. So go find upward, sideways, and downward mentors. People you want to be poured into, learn from, and pour out. Have a great night or day, whichever time you're watching this replay. And take care from Melissa and Jasmine.